Yo and hello, everybody. Mike here, baseball collector, and I've got a special guest tonight. It is Dave, Bluejacket66. Dave, how are you?
Cheers. Good evening, everybody. Doing good?
Good. I am going to work on getting the live stream here on my computer so that I can follow along the comments that you guys make. So if I'm looking this way, it's not that I don't love you. Let's see. All right, here we go.
And I think that's important that this be a group conversation because neither you nor I, Mike, I think are experts
No.
in the deception and fraud going on in the hobby.
That's right, and that will be our topic tonight. But at the same time, before as we're letting some people get in here so they can catch the whole thing, tell me how excited you are about the National.
I'm amped up for it. I've kind of got a European trip coming up, and then the end of July there for the National. I marked it on my calendar 6 months ago. I'm usually a huge procrastinator. Last minute hotel, like I was last year, but I booked everything well in advance, and I'm ready to go. I'm really looking forward to it. Going to have a great time, specifically because it's going to be meeting a lot of people. Looking forward to that more than walking all the aisles, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it'll be a blast. There's going to be so many people there. We've got this dude has the best collection I've ever seen from Jack Cooley. Jack, I actually agree with you. Andy's on. She blinded me with refractors. Greatest YouTube name ever. John is on from St. Louis. We got Mike from Florida, Hitman 23. Oh, Abel's from Vegas is here. Sports Card Fam, Stefan is here. So, man, the whole fam damly is joining us tonight.
Awesome.
Yeah, I cannot wait for the National. I mean, we're down to what? 2.5 months? Almost 3 months? Less than 3 months? So.
That's right. So everybody needs to get their want list together.
Yeah, it'll be here before we know it.
Sure.
It'll be here before we know it. What's up, Think Blue 77? Okay. This sounds like a can't miss live stream. They're saying, well, you might want to miss it when you're done hearing us talk about it, but because Dave and I have spent some time talking about this previously or the last few days, and I thought, man, why don't we go live? Because look, you may not respect me a whole lot in this hobby, but you darn sure better respect Dave and what he brings to the hobby, his knowledge, his experience, and so we're going to try to, muddle our way through this topic of conversation that is not fun to talk about, and no one wants to talk about this side of our hobby. In fact, it's kind of this taboo topic, it seems like, because no one wants to really believe that it's happening. No one wants, and you certainly don't want it to happen to you. And if you think, a lot of people think, well, I'm not in the high-end side of the market. I don't dabble in that. If you think that doesn't trickle down to wherever you are in the sports card hobby, you are wrong. It absolutely does in so many ways. We're going to touch on that a little bit. So, Dave, let me ask you the first question and let you kind of tell everybody just kind of what you're seeing, what's going on, what your observations are.
Well, in general, everybody knows that there's been fraud within this hobby as well as any collectible hobby for a long, long time. It's in numismatics, it's in stamps, it's in anything that probably not Beanie Babies, but who knows. But what we've been seeing recently is really sophisticated fraud in the form of those fake autograph cards, fake T206 autograph cards. And now we're seeing a lot of fraud going on with the modern market and as well as the vintage as well. And I think what we're seeing here is a higher level of sophistication, with the problem being, can we detect it, and what does it mean going forward?
And it's across the board, right? I'm seeing it across all sports, across all genres, eras of cards.
I've seen examples of, vintage football. I think the people on Blowout first started identifying sophisticated trimming actually on modern basketball cards. I mean, but basketball cards are hot. I don't do anything except for vintage basketball a little bit, but modern basketball that's hot, really hot. And so that's where some money is, and that's where the shysters will go.
wherever there's money, there will be people trying to cheat. And
Absolutely.
doesn't matter where it is, there are just people out there that don't care. They don't have integrity. They don't have anything.
In one way, Mike, you can look at it as a testament to the strength of our hobby that people are going there, butting in, trying to make a dollar, because it is a good thing. I mean, it's a fun thing. It's a beautiful thing. It's an investment thing. It's a high dollar thing, and it's a growing thing. So that's a good, but it's not good that the bad elements, continue to thrive in it.
And it's, again, a lot. It's a lot in high end, but, and we'll talk about that a little bit. But investing into sports cards as an alternative investment has become more and more popular. And what you're seeing, I think, is a lot of people getting into this hobby, buying these high-end sports cards with 50 grand, 100 grand, whatever, that aren't sports card collectors and or dealers. They are investors. And so they think third-party grading makes it legit, great. The rest of it I don't really care about. They're not measuring the cards. They're not anything. And I think that's good for the hobby and scary for the hobby a little bit, honestly. Thoughts?
Yeah, I wouldn't know who any of these people are, but whether they're overseas or whether they're here. But, I've speculated in investment things that I know very little to nothing about. And I'm sure people are doing it with baseball cards. I mean, if you just want to look at the 52 mantle in 1980 when, people were paying several hundred to several $1,000s for a 52 mantle, it was crazy. And it was crazy in 85, and it was crazy in 90. Things just go up, 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 up. Now, not everything always goes up, 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 up. But investors see that, and they see these glorious high-grade cards that sell for astronomical amounts of money, and they want in on it. I can't blame them.
And just so you guys know, I'm watching the comments as best I can, but I may or may not be able to get to everybody's comments. So just comment away, no problem, and talk. You guys can bust each other's chops, but for now, we're just going to try to talk through some of this to try to stay on track, because Dave likes to just go, and so I'm going to let him do that, but I'm going to give him some tracks to run on a little bit. So if you're just joining us or not familiar, there's a lot of threads going around on Net54 Baseball, on Blowout Cards, all these card forums where you're finding these guys that are doing an incredibly impressive and sophisticated sleuthing job of identifying these cards that have been doctored in some way, shape, or form. And that can be in the form of trimming. That can be in the form of pressing. What is PWCC now calling it? Conservation,
we'll go down that road.
restoration.
My pulse just went up 15.
So let's talk about the kind of players in this, and I'd like you, Dave, to touch on each of these participants in this process, because we've got, first of all, you got the cheaters. You got the guys or girls or whoever that are doing this and perpetrating these acts of fraud. And that's exactly what it is. To say it's anything else is sugarcoating it. It's complete fraud. And so you got the guys doing it. You got the cheaters. You've got the TPGs. You've got the third-party graders. And I'm just going to lump them all, and we'll just call them for the rest of this just the TPGs, the third-party graders. I'm not going to name any of them specifically. You got the auction houses.
Yeah.
You've got, and again, these are just the people that are all within this process. Now, how much culpability or complicity they might have in this process is what we're going to talk about. But then you've got the auction houses. You've got the kind of the internet / eBay consigners, and then you've got the buyers. I'm a buyer only, so I'm in this process somewhere, and so let's talk about the cheaters first.
Let's do this, Michael. Let's set up. Can we set up the thread on Net54 and Blowout? Because some people may not have read that or know where we're going from. I'm just going to run this real quick. There's a PSA 4.5 mantle on pre-war card collectors up for auction right now, and continues to be up auction. That the people on Blowout identified, specifically one person identified as, hey, I saw that card raw when a family had it, and what I was going to buy it. They couldn't get together on the deal. Ultimately, supposedly, this 52 mantle was consigned to Heritage. And in the PSA holder that showed up at Heritage, the card had been altered. It was subsequently sold by Heritage and then resubmitted for some reason to a different holder, and it looks like more work had been done on it. So the whole thread was, hey, this 4.5 PSA that's up on PWCC, its corners had been pressed. Without question. Without question, that card has been worked on. So now we got tangents into PSA's missing things. PWCC is, selling cards that have been altered. And where's Heritage in all of this? We got all these players, but more importantly is then they started showing card after card after card after card after card, pretty high-end cards that clearly were in lower grade PSA holders, ended up in higher grade holders that have been altered. And people, there are thousands of them out there. I wouldn't doubt that I have some in my collection. I'll be honest with you. Who knows at this point? But this is where this whole thing blew up, and it brings us down this whole road. We know who the bad guys, we don't know who they are, although PWCC and PSA should know who they are, but we don't know who they are. And we got all these players, and who's responsible? What is PSA's responsibility? What is PWCC's responsibility? We can talk about that. But that's where this all came from, and it's not a new thing. Again, these cards. I mean, you could go back threads years. You always don't see cards that have been altered. But this one really blew up with this mantle, and then dozens of cards after that have shown to be meticulously worked on by experts.
Let's talk about the mantle for a second. And I'll play devil's advocate for a second.
Yeah.
There are thousands and thousands and thousands of mantle cards. They are not serial numbered. How can they know, and I know the answer to this, I just want you to say it for everybody. Yeah. How can they know that's the same card and not just another card? I mean, good grief, there's tons of them out there.
Well, I suppose every card has its own little fingerprint if you have some magnification, and they all have their maybe tiny little print dot in this area or on the back of the card, the spec next to the F in 4, et cetera, and they've circled them on the original cards, and they've circled them on the cards that have been graded and altered, and they just it's undeniable. It'd be undeniable in a court of law, just like a fingerprint.
Right.
Cards are not perfect. Every single card has its own little identifying features. Look to your cards. They'll find something. Even not probably modern cards. They'll find a little something that identifies them. So
for sure.
That's how these super sleuths track these things down.
Which is incredible investigatory work, by the way. And if you guys haven't read these threads, if you're watching this on replay or you want to go check this later and come back to this video, I'll put links to these threads. They are worth reading.
They're long and laborious, and you'll go through a few pages of just
people bitching.
Nonsense.
Yeah.
There's some hard-hitting stuff in there, and big questions you'll ask yourself.
So you brought up the mantle one. Let me bring up two other threads that have gained a lot of prominence lately. There is, on the basketball side, there's some high-end LeBron James RPAs, rookie patch autos, which is what RPA stands for, that have been clearly, and what's easy is they're serial numbered. So
I know, that's crazy.
It's like, good grief, you go from let's say, I don't know the exact number grade bumps that these cards have gotten, but let's say 8 to a 10, just to keep it simple. I mean, it's painfully obvious that once was an 8 is now a 10, and these flaws that were on these cards mysteriously disappeared and they're serial numbered. I mean, it's painfully obvious. Then you've got a thread on Blowout right now about some Bryce Harper rookie autograph cards. They're really like Bowman prospect cards, I think. And Bryce Harper has when you sign a card, as much as you might sign your name, every single signature is different. And so it's like a serial numbering. And they have these high grade scans of raw Harpers with unbelievably obvious flaws, corner dings, name your thing, and then they show them slabbed, and magically they're a PSA 10, and it's or whatever 10, BGS 10, whatever. I said I wasn't going to name any of them. Too bad, too late.
Yeah.
That ship sailed.
I'll do all the naming on this.
I don't mind naming them. I really don't, and it's not. Well, we'll get to who's to blame for all this later. And the answer is everybody. That's the simple answer to who blamed.
Yeah.
To blame for this. But, okay, so there's a Harper thread, there's the Mantle thread, there's this. It's becoming very, very prominent in our industry, in our hobby. I shouldn't say industry. It is an industry, but it's not to me. It is to a lot of people. They make a living at it. I'm just not one of them. So, to that end, I had a bloody point, and I can't remember. Just kind of telling everybody, I'll put these threads down below so that you can read them. You should. They're worth reading, and it might make you a little sick, might make you a little frustrated, but we're here to talk that out with you. We're here to console you guys because I think we're at the end of this story that Dave and I tell you here at the end of this discussion. There is light at the end of the tunnel, and there is a rainbow, I think, for us people. Let me explain to you guys what pressing is, because there's a lot of people out there that I think don't even know what that is and how you do that to a baseball card. I do have a card right here. So if I was to take this Will Clark card and the corners were pushed in or whatever, I could take this card and I could literally soak it in water, and it's paper, right? So what's the card going to do? It's going to absorb the water. And when it does that, it's going to expand. And when it expands, you can take it and you can put it in between a towel, paper towels, whatever, and you can literally press it either with some type of weight or books or something, or
even a spoon. If you're just doing them a little corner, just do a little spoon.
Yeah, just get a spoon and roll it on it. That's right. A lot of guys press that way. And then what you've done is you've actually made that corner. Think about if you spread out peanut butter on a sandwich with a spoon, right? If you have a glob of peanut butter and you push the spoon down in it, the peanut butter is going to expand out, and that's what happens to the paper. And so what they then do is they then trim those excess edges off of the corner. You now have a perfect corner. Problem solved. But what that makes the card thinner. We've just removed some material, and so the material that was there is no longer there. I'm getting maybe in the weeds a little, but if you guys just know the sophistication behind this, and this is all stuff that I don't press cards. I'd be scared to even try, but to think what these guys, the links that they go through to, and it's because the value is so much great. It's exponential. An 8 to a 9 is 10 times as much, or you know what I mean? The juice is worth the squeeze to cheat, right, Dave? I mean, they're going to get so much more money.
Oh my gosh! I mean, some of these cards they're going from PSA 6s to 8s, and the cards they're going from $7,000 to a $21,000 card. And how would you like to have that card in your collection and find out it's been all over Blowout cards and it's really not to be graded authentic?
Right.
So at some point, some big guy, some big attorney, some Keith Olbermann, some, Ken Kendrick, somebody's going to end up realizing they're holding the bag and are going to make a move on this. Because as individuals, I don't think we can have a move. You know who I want to make a move?
Who?
I want PSA and I want PWCC. There I put out names to make a move on it. That's who I want to make a move, because these people are getting cards either submitted to them, and they're coming, they're getting altered cards, and they know who these people are. And they may not name them because, why should PSA name them? But when the subpoenas start flying, and maybe they will, maybe they won't. Yeah, they better hope that they didn't keep these people on their mailing list, that they continue to accept consignments from these people, because PWCC knows who's submitting these cards. I
Right.
mean, it's out there. They know who it is, and they don't have to, broadcast it if they don't want to. I don't want to go into that, but they know who it is. Do they have responsibility to the hobby? At least cut them off, and PSA cut them off. But when the subpoenas, if they ever fly, and we find out that PSA was continuing to do business with people that they knew by threads like Blowout and Net54 were altering cards, there's going to be a huge problem. And I hope that's not the case, because the bad guys are the people that are micro-trimming these cards. I don't know how they're doing it, with laser cutters or, the cutters that you use to slice, pathology slices. They're slicing off hairs off these cards,
Right.
So it's not PWCC's fault or PSA's fault that these people are doing it. But I wish they would make a big stand. And this is where I'm really disappointed. I got to throw this out here. You can redirect me if you want.
No, go. I love it.
PWCC realizes that this 52 mantle, that's a 4.5, has been altered. That its corners have been fixed. And its response to that was to declare and put out this big long thing about how they feel that pressing and doing creasing is conservation and not restoration or alteration. It is, in my book, sickening for what they're doing. I'm absolutely disgusted that they've come out with this. It's clearly covering themselves. It's covering themselves, saying, we realize we're selling altered cards, that we're gonna say that they're conserved, and that's okay with us. It's not okay with PSA. Okay? PSA, N5, altered stock, paper restoration, creases, wrinkles, pressing. N5, that's a no-go, non-gradable card. But PWCC, don't they say they're not professional graders?
Yes.
Don't they say that?
Yes, that's the funny part.
If they're not professional graders, why are they telling me what's conservation and what's A-OK with an altered card? And why are they putting fucking stickers on it? Excuse me.
That's
why are
all
they
right.
putting stickers on it and telling me that it's a fantastic card if they're not professional graders? They're going to hide behind that, and it's going to bite them.
Yeah, that top 15% or whatever.
It's going to bite them. You can say we're not a professional grader, but when you do things that is clearly grading and adding to the value of a card that you are selling and you are getting commission on, if things go down, it's going to be a problem, in my estimation, for them. Okay? Because they're acting like graders.
New York Yanks fan 7, who has an amazing collection himself, and he was mentioning a couple of things. Number one, he's wanting to know where we can see these threads and all these altered cards. Again, when this is over, I don't have time to do it right now because I'm talking to you. I'll put the links down below to several of the threads, and you can go see the amazing investigatory work done by some of these people in our community, in our hobby community. And his other point was, and this is absolutely true because I'm a comic book collector too, and they press comics all the time. In fact, you can pay to have someone professionally press your comics, which will improve the grade of that comic. And so my question would be, what's the difference? Why isn't it, oh, thanks, Brian, B-Ross6, Brian posted a link. Thank you, Brian.
Well, I think in comic books, because I play comic books, you play comics.
Yeah,
yeah. If there's been any restorative work on the comic, it's right there on the CGC label. It says what's been done to it, and those do not bring a premium compared to a pristine book. They don't. I mean, it can be a 7.5, but in the thing it'll say, hey, it has some corner da 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 da, etc. And people don't pay as much for that. They don't pay as much for a 1970, Cougar that's been restored or worked on than they do an original one. Same things with coins and stamps and anything else. So, if PWCC wants to say something is conserved, put it in the title. If it's A-OK, put it in your title and see if people are going to bid on it. See if people are going to bid the same PSA 5, whatever, that you say is conserved and is A-okay with you. See if it sells for the same amount. You know what? They're not going to do it. You know why? Dollars.
Yep.
Irritating. Very irritating to say something that is not accepted in our hobby is okay because you're making money off it.
Yep.
Sorry.
Has Probstein come out with a stance on this? I haven't seen anything, but...
No, nor has PSA, because what's PSA going to say? People, we trust these people. We all get upset because, our PSA 5, if you resubmit it, may come back a 6, and hey, I think it looks like a 7, but they think it's 4.5. And, how many people are working at PSA 22, and they have hundreds and hundreds of thousands of cards going through there?
Right.
So what are they going to say? Are they going to, yep, we missed a whole bunch of high-dollar cards that are clearly been altered, but we gave them number grades. What are they going to say? They're not going to say anything. And, I can't even say that it's their fault. I mean, this stuff is really, really, really meticulously done. But I hope they will at least look at it, try to go after the perpetrators, and maybe try to improve their process, so that they can take up this stuff. You can't just put your head in the sand.
So here's a question then about...
It's vital for our hobby. It's vital. If PSA would go down, our hobby would have,
It'd be bad. Real bad.
It would be bad.
So... Okay, so... Let's take PSA. They get a card in.
Yeah.
And I think there's a different thought process between modern and vintage. If we think about modern cards, and people say all the time, let's just put it this way. I think modern cards are cut way more accurately today than they were in the 50s or 60s, right?
There's no question.
Can we agree with that?
Many vintage cards, it's acceptable at like 1/16th of an inch variance in some issues.
Which is a lot. A lot.
It's a heck of a lot. Yeah,
a ton.
A lot. But
and
there's variances, right? In 75 tops, though, Mike, right? How many of us got cards back from PSA that are 75 tops, some 70s issues, and it says minimum size? And you're like, I just pulled it out of a pack. What do you mean minimum size?
Right.
So there's variances in post-war issues as well. Now, as far as modern cards, we'll call them shiny cards just because I can say that.
Good.
I would assume that the standards are much, much higher. Variance would have to be very small, but, no process could be perfect, But to answer your point, I would think, and I may be wrong, that modern, as in recent modern cards, there should be much variance in the card size.
I would agree, both in size, the 2.5 by 3.5, and in thickness. I mean, you can take a micrometer and measure the thickness of a card. It's not hard, and it doesn't mean you can't have tolerances and can't have variances, but I think, and I don't know what PSA's, tolerance is, plus or minus a certain whatever level to normal or standard. But whatever it is, they need to narrow that band and start. I think they could gain a lot of respect back if they start rejecting cards that don't meet standards.
I agree. I saw I think someone had posted a GIF on Blowout. The question is, why can't PSA pick these up? And remember that I Love Lucy, where Ethel and Lucy are at the candy. They're in the front of that conveyor belt that has candies going by.
Yep.
They're supposed to box them. And it goes faster and faster, and all this candy's going by, and she's jamming them in her mouth and in her pockets. That's what's going on at PSA. So we cannot expect them
to catch everything.
If you go on their website, we look at a card, we examine it, then it's re-examined by another person, and then there's just another person who confirms you too. No way. They can't spend more than 10 seconds per card, if they get a really high dollar card, I bet you, they scrutinize it pretty well.
Right.
But I'm just telling you, how many cards went through PSA last year? Something like 600,000?
At least.
22 people are graders? Come on, do the math.
Yeah, how many is that per day? Each person's having to see
Yeah,
And
it's easy to get stuff by, and I cannot blame them for some of the stuff going by. But I hope it's a lesson learner, because it'll completely, if you can't ESA, if nothing else, if you don't agree on the grades, you should believe in the authenticity of the card. And now you cannot.
and you've got, talking about your I Love Lucy analogy, what are they going to do? Are they going to hire? Great, let's bring more people off the street that have no idea how to grade a bloody card. Like, that's not the answer.
Or we're going to spend more time. Or we're going to spend more time on a measure. We're going to do micrometers. We're going to see if we can get back into a catalog, compare off worth point. Next thing you know, it takes you 2 years to get your card back, and they charge you $400 per card for your 78 buck event.
And if
makes no sense.
If they get a reputation for starting to reject more and more cards that don't meet within their, revised tolerances, they're going to lose business, because they don't get paid to not grade cards, right? They get paid to grade cards, and so they have a vested interest in actually slabbing the card. As much as they can talk all day long about being, we want to do what's right for the hobby, and I don't think they're insincere about that. I just don't know how they can ever live up to it. It's not a desire problem.
We can't expect 100% with anything we do. But what I do is expect that this is our hobby, and they're a major player and part of our hobby. And if there's fraud going on, I expect them to acknowledge it and help tackle it. That I do expect that.
For them to say, and now that we're just into the TPGs and mainly PSA, because we're both PSA guys mostly.
Yeah, and by that, PSA's every grading company.
Yes, this would be true of all of them.
Sure,
absolutely. Go ahead. Did you have a point? Did I interrupt you?
PSA will stand by their card, and let's say you have a X dollar card that's proven to be altered. They will buy it back for you for what you paid. And then I assume they put it in an altered thing, or they get rid of it, or whatever. So will SGP. Beckett does not have that policy. So, unless PSA could take some serious financial hit if some of these big boys have some of these altered cards and PSA has to buy them back. They don't want to do that either. So they don't want this to get out of control.
Sure.
They don't. Of course they don't. And I don't know what they're going to do, but I don't even know what goes on there. To me, it's Wizard of Oz. There's like this big curtain, and what's going behind the curtain? I had no idea. No idea.
You never hear anyone, and it's kind of this trade secret thing, right? They have a way they do it, and it's kind of, I wouldn't call it trademarked, but it's certainly a trade secret for them of how they grade cards and their process. But you never hear about former employees. I'm sure they all have non-disclosure agreement, NDAs, where they can't talk about it. And but you never hear about, you don't ever hear anybody coming out, blowing the whistle on the PSA, machine, and how little time may or may not be given to each card, blah, blah, blah. But do you think, let me ask you this. I'm going to ask you to speculate a little bit, but I don't think it's too much of a reach. Do you think that when, let's say I'm one of the big consigners or an auction house, I'm not even going to, it doesn't matter who it is, a big one that does a lot of business through PSA every year, and they have a giant group of cards that they are like, hey, we need this for our blah, blah, blah auction. We'll pay you whatever you want, but we need these cards done. And they provide this giant chunk of money. And do you think they get preferential grading and when I mean preferential, it can be either not spending enough time on the card, whatever, any way that can manifest itself.
I know where you're going. So they say, PSA says, well, once they get their input, they become this generic number, and we don't know who submitted it. Give me a break. If these big whales come with all these major high dollar cards, not only do they know who submitted it, they're probably getting wine and cheese, in the back room while they're waiting. Let's be honest with you. When Heritage or REA or any of these big auctions, submits to PSA, do you think they go in with Dave Burke's cards?
No.
Come on. No, that's ridiculous. Now, whether or not they get preferential grading treatment, that's not even for me to speculate. But there's no way do I believe that these cards are being graded blinded.
I always had this idea.
I think yes. To answer your question, yes. I think the big boys, big players, and whatnot, they know that it's their cards coming in, and they know, hey, but do they get preferential grades? I'll let the community decide that.
Right.
Or speculate on that.
That's a great, Mason just made a great analogy. It's like a bartender pouring an extra, long pour for a regular, versus the guy showing it off the street. And that happens, everywhere, not just in cards. But I always thought PSA was this, oh gosh, what's the word I want to use? I looked at it like an amusement park ride. You go to this amusement park ride and everybody gets in the line. We're all the same. We all get in line. And the line is however long the line's long based on how many people want to ride the line. And eventually you're going to get to the front. If it's a popular day, you may wait longer than normal, but my place in line is secured, barring some people don't cheat and cut in line. Now, you also have, and I've used this analogy before in a video, but you have other people that pay more to be in the fast pass lane, right? And they get, and you understand that. I know that going in, when I get to that amusement park, that there are certain rides that have the fast pass lane, or it happens at the National, right? The guy, you're waiting in for an autograph, you bought the ticket. There are people that have the super VIP and they get to move right in front of you because they paid more money. And we know that those are the rules. Well, what I'm told directly by PSA is that is not how it works at all. Absolutely not. We never say that. It's basically we're going to get to your cards when we get to them. And it's kind of how the grader feels that day. Does he want to do a big giant load of 500 or does he want to knock out a whole bunch of smaller orders? That's it. There's no other rhyme or reason to it. You could be on the stack for however long, but it is not, I'll use this word, but I don't know that it's appropriate, but fair. It's not fair. It's not, you get there, when your cards get there, you get in the back of the line, and the line moves along as it moves along. It is not that way one bit. And these giant consigners or submitters, it doesn't have to be just consigners and auction houses. You can just have guys that just do regular giant orders that are dealers or whatever. They are going to get some type of, it's so-and-so, his cards are some type of preemptive bias that happens immediately when you know whose cards they are, right? Good or bad?
Yeah, hey, this guy does $100,000 in business with us every year.
There's no way he would submit anything that's not legit. He's never, we've never heard of him being accused of any wrongdoings or funny business. Oh, the rabbit hole is deep. All right, here's another topic.
Yeah, it's very deep, and I don't know what the third-party grading answer is, other than you've got to have integrity with what you do. And as far as, do you think that it's what do you think? It wasn't 2 weeks after the T206 fake autograph thing came down that probably involved all grading companies, that probably a little heavier with SGC. All of a sudden, they're not grading autographs anymore.
Yep.
I don't know if that had anything to do with that or not.
Of course it did. Of course it did.
Did not. But
no way did that.
I don't know. But we need to. What are you going to do, Mike? Are you going to, hey, pre-war card collector, they clearly condone what they call conserving cards, which is what PSA describes as altering cards. Are you going to protest them and not buy from them anymore? I'm not going to make you answer that.
No, I'll answer it. I'm not
gonna
a.
do that, and it makes me sound a little bit hypocritical because I never ask anybody to do anything that I'm not going to do, and I'm not going to stop sending cards to PSA, and I'm not going to stop bidding with pre-work card collector, but we're little guys. We kind of put it out there, but the big guys need to take this altering thing seriously. By
Right.
the horns. I'll be out some baseball cards. They'll be out of business.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about that. What can we do as buyers besides the caveat emptor that applies to everything in life? Buyer beware. What can we do to either protect ourselves, protect our collection? I don't know. What do you think we can do?
Okay. Well, this is going to sound really goofy. Really goofy. I'm kind of a letter writer. When I'm upset with Nike, which I was over the winter, I wrote them a letter and I stopped buying Nike shoes. When Starbucks quit doing holiday cups 2 years ago, it's a big joke at my work. I wrote them a letter and I stopped buying Starbucks for a month or so. Well, I didn't like my state senator in Missouri. I wrote her letters all the time, and eventually she was no longer a state senator. So what can you do? You can at least voice a concern to these players, to PWCC, PSA, SEC, Beckett Grading. At least let them know I'm out there. I buy cards. I'm concerned about this. I think that's one thing that we can all do. Okay, I think that is something we can do because if our industry likes to put our heads in the sand, and we like to think that things just go away, and let's not let that happen with this because we're all being defrauded. So I plan on just writing a couple letters, not accusatory. I don't think it's anybody's fault. I think the fault is the scammers. That's their fault. But let these other people know where it's out there. We hope you're addressing it. That's one thing you could do.
Yeah. I like it.
Another thing I'm doing. I'm looking at a card on PWCC. It's coming up in a couple days. It's pretty nice. You don't see it that often, and I'm scared. I started looking over all sorts of past sales, looking at other cards that were a little lower grade to see, has this card been altered? Is that sad? Is that sad that I probably spent a half hour? I'll just tell you what it is. That's not going to get it. It's a Wilson Frank's Campanelle. It's a PSA 7.
Love it.
Come on, I'm a hot dog guy. It's a beautiful card. And so I'm all over the internet looking at all the other past sales of cards to see if this card may have been altered. That's sad.
You should be able just to take it at face value.
And is a little bit of my own due diligence, And that's not me, people. You guys like your Trout updates. If I was a scammer, I'd be making a whole lot of Trout updates that are 9s and 10s with my little micro cutter.
Right.
Wouldn't you?
Absolutely.
I mean, the number one denomination bill that's counterfeit in the United States is not a $500 bill. It's not a $100 bill.
It's a $20
bill.
Yep.
People don't ask big questions about that. Tend to get by. You can make $2 million.
20 at a time.
With little stuff, just as well as one big thing. So,
that's right.
Anyway, what do you think? I don't know. What does everybody else think that we can do?
Well, I got some questions that are being answered, and then I'll answer my way.
Yeah.
Stefan wants to know what's the chance that PWCC is the one actually altering the cards, or any other auction house, not just PWCC.
I'll tell you this. PWCC submits cards to PSA, and there have been, the blowout shows that they can follow these serial numbers. And here's a card that has been proven to be altered. So they find that serial number, and then they find a lot of, like 30 other cards on each side of that were clearly probably within the same submission. And they found out that, hey, 80% of these went on to sell at Pre-War Card Collector, and you know what?
They're all
17
altered.
of them got stickered. You know, 17 of them got the extra stickers. Isn't that kind of funny?
How convenient.
No one else seems to be able to get these stickers, but you know. So I don't know. I'm not pointing a finger at them. You know, there are people that do. There's people that do that think. You know. Do you know about the 36 DiMaggio Worldwide Gum fiasco from a couple years ago?
I've heard about it. I don't know a lot of the details, so I'd love to hear it if you want to tell the story.
I don't want to tell the story, but you know, that was a Pre-War Card Collector. You know, they had this very nice, I can't remember the grade, it's a 7, 36 DiMaggio Worldwide Gum, and lo and behold, someone on Net54 found that exact same card. It'd been in a much less grade holder with clearly some tape marks on it. And lo and behold, it goes through PWCC, and all of a sudden it's cleaned up, slick as a whistle. And it is a big problem. My big problem with PWC, and I'm not accusing them of anything, but I do question their methods with dealing with hard questions from the community. I have a big problem with it. When the community worries about shill bidding, and they say, well, you know what we're going to do? If you've had 25 or more bid retractions, we're going to send you a letter, and the next time we're going to ban you. 25 bid retractions? You know,
yeah.
Who has more than one in their lifetime? So, and when their answer to all these problems with their cards is by redefining what conservation is and saying it's okay with them, I do not agree with how they respond to real problems in our community, specifically fraud. But I don't think they have any. You know, I don't think they have anything. I don't know anything about them, so I don't think they have anything to do. And have seen no evidence they have anything to do with misdeeds as far as altering cards. No.
So in our remaining time, we wanted to try to keep this, guys, at about an hour, just to make it listenable. But we're not necessarily stuck to that. I'm just saying that's our goal. I have two last questions for you that we can discuss. And it's, A, who is ultimately responsible for the fraud that's going on in our hobby? And B, what do you think are the long-term ramifications on the good of the hobby overall?
Well, it's easy to point your finger at yourself and say you are ultimately responsible. Buyer beware. You are responsible for this card that you bought. But that's not fair, to be honest with you. Because I bought a card that is in a PSA or SGC or Beckett or GAI or whatever holder in good faith that card is authentic and is within reason, within the condition that they certified it at. So, with that being said, I don't think that it's all on me. Yes, I think you should do your homework and know your stuff. You know, with raw cards, it's a minefield out there.
Right.
But I don't think that all the blame is clearly on the perpetrators. And that's who the blame is on. And I just wish, you know what this hobby needs? Why don't we have some sort of governing board? I mean, doesn't Coins have the American Academy or American Society of Numismatics? And why don't we have anything like that? We're not small potatoes. Why isn't there a board of 5 to 10 people that can see problems like this and address it with the community, address it at the national, and address it with with our third-party graders and eBay and these major consigning outlets? Why don't we have that?
You might be onto something.
We do not have a voice in this community. You're the biggest voice out there, Mike, and you're on YouTube. So.
Dave for president. Dave for president. That's good. I'm gonna, man, Dave in 2020. Bluejacket66 all the way.
No, I'm a shitster. I'm no good at even any sort of administrative position. It's a disaster.
But where you're going, I think, is kind of interesting. Like,
I,
okay,
it's,
you're
why don't we have that?
well, you're a doctor. I'm a CFP. I'm a certified financial planner. If I did something wrong, it would get turned in, and there would be an investigation. And if I was found to be guilty, I would lose my ability to be in this business the rest of my life. If you do,
Everyone, yeah, Mike, I know where you're going, and we're all accountable in our jobs. And so the third party graders should be accountable, and so should major consignment. So the question is, who's going to make them accountable? And I can't do it as an individual, so I don't know why we don't have why don't we don't have a society or a board or somebody. Wouldn't you like to get newsletters from them every month? That would be fun.
that would be great. And you
where the
have,
conventions are and what's going on in the hobby, and hey, this is a problem. We're going to vote on it. You get your card in the mail, and I don't know. We need something like that, because back to your question, what can we do? I don't know, other than press the people that at least have the ability to catch up with these people.
and if I would say, like, I'm loving your idea, by the way. I'm thinking about how it would, since this is the first time I've heard it, my brain is spinning. But think about, if you to display or be a dealer at the National, you have to be this, endorsed by the Society of baseball sports card people, or whatever. You have to have some certification that you've done, that you're on the up and up. And again, it doesn't mean perfect. We're not asking for perfect. That's impossible, right? I don't think either one of us would say that's impossible, or that would be possible to be perfect. It's not. But
No,
I would say the ultimate ramifications are, cheating's been going along as long as there has been cards and money involved. It will always be there. The long-term ramifications for the hobby are, I think, very low in terms of hurting the hobby. I think that the hobby's growing so much. There's so much money flowing that
I'll agree with you. Yeah.
and scandals happen everywhere, happen all the time, and this too.
As long as it doesn't become a wildfire, because soon as legitimacy of cards in general comes into question, it's a big problem.
It could be.
It's a really big problem. So that's why I think someone's got to ward this off.
But today's headlines are lining tomorrow's wastebaskets, is what they say, right? And so.
Correct. Yeah.
But every time a thread dies down, another instance is discovered of some major trimming. It's just happening, I think, more and more frequently, because there's so many high-grade scans and so much more information out there, and cards are being sold and bought in much more public places. You're not buying a 52 mantle in a back alley. You're buying it on the internet, where everybody can see it, and everybody can go, wait a second, I know I've seen that card somewhere before. Oh yeah, I used to own it, and it was a PSA 3, and it's magically now a 6. How is that possible? Or whatever. It's easier to discover. It still takes a lot of work, and these guys are amazing that do this. But I think the ultimate ramifications are, like, for me, let's take my personal ramifications. Am I going to stop buying PSA slab cards? No. Am I going to stop buying from PWCC and Probstein? No. Do I think funny business happens in their auctions, shilling and selling altered cards? Yes. Okay. I mean, I accept that. That is what I can't change it. Me, Mike Moynihan, I can't change it, and so, and neither can Dave Berg. Sorry, buddy. As much as we want it to change, but I'm not going to stop doing what I do. I love the hobby. I love the people. I love the relationships. I love the connection that all of it creates. And I'm kind of glad I live in the PSA 5 and 6 world and 7 world, but there's fraud going on there. I'm telling you right now. If I started this whole thing 55 minutes ago talking about, and if you weren't here, then If you think that this all doesn't affect you, well, that's all for the high end guys. That doesn't apply to me. I buy raw or I buy stuff that's not worth any money. Well, guess what? If there's $1 to be made, someone's going to try to cheat you out of it. And
yeah, and I read some comment that, you know, that they knew. I don't know how they know that many of this going on is with cards that are under $50. Believe it or not,
I do believe it.
at some level, probably not sophisticated trimming, because but whether it's pressing and creases or I don't know, it's got to be at all level. I mean, let me just ask you this: you ever stuck one of your 1970 commons in your binder in the corner, flipped up a little bit, and you're like,
of course,
crap. Yeah, what do? You put it between your two fingers, you squeeze it, and you put it back in the binder.
Right.
So we're all very guilty on a level, but I'm not trying to make a buck on it like some people are.
Poor man Stack, who has a great channel, he says, "Why didn't we have this talk before I put my bids in today?" I love it.
Well,
look, neither Dave nor I are.
Here's the wonderful thing about it: is no one's making you spend money, and no one's making just because you just got to take it with a grain of salt. I don't know. As pre-war card collectors, they put a sticker on their card. Guess what? It sells for 130 to 200% more than an unstickered card. But no one's making you pay for it. Pay that. You pay what you want, what you're comfortable with. So, in that sense, you can be responsible to yourself. But yeah, let's keep buying cards. No one's suggesting.
Absolutely not.
Let's move into quilting or something. No way.
Yikes. Man, I think we covered a lot of bases tonight. I hope we helped you guys. I hope we just wanted to give our opinions, and nothing will buy you nothing.
Frustrating.
But it's very frustrating.
What's frustrating is seeing something that then you came to the big question at the end: what do we do? And we're all sitting around sucking our thumbs.
Right.
After an hour conversation, got nothing for you. Got nothing.
Yep, we end up right where we were. I'm going to get off this phone call. I'm going to go on my computer and I'm going to bid on slab cards. I can look. I got this stack in today of slabbed cards. So if that tells you that I think the hobby's dead or this is going to end, I mean, come on, that's just silly. But it's important that you be aware.
No, but we should fight fraud, and I think you should let anybody that you believe is worthy of knowing that all it takes is a letter. I read these threads on Blowout. I'm very concerned about it. That's all you need. You don't need to send them a whole 10-page letter.
Right.
They would read it. They want to read the first line. Hey, I see what's going on. I'm concerned.
I wonder if they read them.
So some of these companies are publicly traded.
I'm a shareholder of PSA. I'm a shareholder of Collectors Universe.
What changes things is when people start going to jail. That's
right.
That changes things. And it just takes one person to go to jail that everybody else is doing it saying, I don't think I want to go to jail. We've seen that happen with the auction houses. We've seen people go to jail.
Kevin Jones said, I just picked up a super nice 1953 Topps Johnny Mize and a PSA 6 today. Too bad, Kevin. Last week it was a PSA 4, and now it's a PSA 6. No, just kidding. You know
what, though, Mike? Here's the thing. There's a lot of people out there that don't give a crap if that card's altered. You know what they care about? The number on the holder.
Yeah.
Once it's in that, they're gold. They don't care what was done with it.
Registry addiction.
That's,
it's real. Yeah.
And there's probably people out there like, let's not drag this. I don't want to find out if my, 58 mantle is been trimmed. Well, can't we just sweep this under the rug? There's people like that,
What would you do? What would you do if you found out your 49 Bowman Jackie is tampered with in some way?
God, I would. Can you really look at it the same?
No.
I mean, seriously. I'd be like, fuck.
Even if they came back and said authentic but altered, it would totally change your perspective on the card, right?
Heck yeah. If you go to CarMax and you get a 2018 blah blah blah, and what would you do if you found out a month later? Hey, didn't you know that thing was found in a river 2 months ago and they cleaned it up? You'd be like,
right.
I don't think I want this.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe at some point there's going to be some more sophisticated grading with some sort of artificial. I don't know. There's been talk about that.
Snoop said
that maybe SGC has got something in the pipeline to do some sophisticated artificial intelligence grading.
Right.
I don't know.
Snoop said if you found out it was altered in some way, you could send it to him. And
that's one thing I could do.
Some people are also saying that you should cuss in every video, that you're a lot more fun this way. But cuss in every video.
Kids that watch these dang videos.
There are kids that watch these. So, guys, it's been an hour, and we really, Dave and I both appreciate so many of you guys coming on and hearing us blab about this topic that's not going to go away. We didn't solve any major things today, but it allowed you guys to all have a medium to vent and do all sort, make your comments and all that. I hope you enjoyed it. Just the topic of conversation, and
just something to blow off. Just something to blow off a little steam and maybe point some fingers and make them feel good about each other. That we're not the problem. But I don't know, Mike. When you called me 2 days with this and said, let's do this live, I'm glad I did, because I would have flipped out on the air.
That day, if we would have done it that day, I gave you 2 days to calm down.
I'd have been an embarrassment.
Yeah.
You'd have had to cut me off. But
well, I got to
calm down a little bit.
I got to give a special shout out to the sports card mom, Amy. I hope you're doing well. And hey, we'll do this again soon if y'all want to hear more. Leave comments. Let us know what you think, and let us know if we're dumb. That's okay too. We have no thumbs down though. That's good. That's impressive. But thanks everybody for watching. I hope everybody has a great night and a great rest of your week. And hey, I mean this in all sincerity. Keep collecting.